Hello, everybody. This is Brandon from Galaxy Market. Today is August 1st, 2026. It's Saturday, approximately 8:42 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As I bring you this video, it's very important as we are leaving the summer doldrums of very, very slow July market. And as the title states, slow and steady, the race just has started as we get into the meat of the fall trading heading into the New Year's. This has typically been the uh, time frame in which the market provides significant opportunities. And as I have reiterated, this market is not going to crash anytime soon. However, sometime in October, we're going to see hopefully a blow off top formation in the markets. Regardless, that's a little ways off. We're going to be focusing on the stock market for August 3rd through August 7th, 2026, which is next week. Of course, we're looking at the return of stock market volume and how that impacts how we trade going forward. Okay, so here's the disclaimer. If you're not part of my community, please pause it and read it. And if you agree, please move forward. And of course, thank you so much for following me at x.com/galaxy.market. A lot of commentaries, posting some pertinent stock market and geopolitical related things to help you become better traders. And of course, thank you so much for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to YouTube. All right, so the July summer doldrum has finally ended. Thank God. Okay, it's like this every year. After about May to June, the volume starts to taper off, and then after 4th of July weekend, as I have said repeatedly, that the market is range bound, choppy, and lacks volume, and so it is something that where traders should consider keeping their position sizing small or go fishing. Okay, but that boring summer doldrums has ended, and we're going to have to start planning for excitement to return into the market, including range, volume, and for those of you that are bearish, you know that it's been a tough sledding. We've been cautiously bullish to neutral throughout this market, keeping our position sizing smaller and or staying in cash for the most part. It doesn't mean that you can't follow the market, but it is something where everybody that's calling for a major market crash, World War III, end of the world, that narrative doesn't really work because really the economy and the world, if you think about it biblically, belongs to Satan. It is a biblical war, a spiritual war between Jesus and Satan. And it is something that, whether you like it or not, it is fought. That battle is fought in the realm of the financials and debt, and of course, politicians and manipulations. And we're going to be going over just one aspect of it. And of course, you know who I'm going to be talking about is regarding the Fauci's congressional testimony or lack thereof, and eye-opening discovery of his diary. And we all knew that a lot of these issues, at least for our group, that it really didn't jive. The involvement of the medical, political fascism that basically existed post COVID, and I don't really care. My channel here on YouTube is very, very small. X.com is a little bigger, but we're growing. But I have to tell the truth, and I have been a staunch critic of the entire aspect of COVID, about the vaccines, about the involvement of pharmaceutical companies, especially Pfizer, Moderna, and of course Anthony Fauci. I'm not going to delve too much into that, but I will mention it in this video and how that relates to the stock market. Okay, everything is a distraction, and they want you to be distracted either by Iranian war, with Anthony Fauci, the COVID, the pandemics, or all this other stuff that they have concocted for you. The problem is that people are awake. People are starting to see the repetition and the consistency in which things are not what they seem. Okay, and neither is the market. All right, so this is what I want to cover, and why am I talking about Stephen A., my least favorite person on personality in all of sports? It's because he has admitted he was wrong because he was a staunch critic of Kyrie Irving, a basketball superstar, as you all know. And Kyrie made a stand, did he not? During the COVID, refusing to be vaccinated. They literally persecuted him. The entire media complex, including this man right here, have absolutely tried to destroy his credibility or his motivation for the game. And that shaped the perception for maybe half of the Americans. For me, I was rooting for Kyrie. I mean, I think he is a brave person that stuck to his principles. He is based. And now Stephen A is apologizing. Why would he apologize? Because he knows after the bombshell revelations that we knew all along as a group, that whole COVID thing was not real, that it was concocted. I mean, it was real, but it was manufactured. Okay. And that the people that are involved were megalomaniac psychopaths in our government, in our bureaucracy, and that's what the battle is. And whether you like Trump or not, okay, he is a brazen, egotistical person that basically loves our country, and that's the way I keep it. And I believe that there is anointing from God for him, but he can't do it alone. All of this has to come from the Lord Jesus Christ, and this is the spiritual battle. But the cockroaches are coming out and admitting, at least with Stephen A, he has the balls to man up to his errors. So he said, in hindsight, it didn't make him stubborn or selfish. He's basically saying he's right, and coming from this man, that's a lot, okay, and that. Here, one by one, you're going to see that the admission of COVID, that it was basically manufactured, that it was a false flag, it was basically government overreach to do what? To control you, to make you poor, to make you scared as they basically rob you of your prosperity and your future. And this is what the globalist agenda is. And you need to see that very, very clearly. In essence, we've all been lied to. Right here. Okay, we've all been lied to, and we're continuing to be lied to. Stephen A now sees through the BS, and of course he has to save his credibility. A lot of these media personalities that's basically been shaming and persecuting the anti-vaxxers, the people that kind of knew, had the discernment, they're going to come out and pretend that never happened. At least with Stephen A, he's apologizing that he was wrong. Fauci is exposed. He's just basically, it's crimes against humanity, I believe. And truth is coming to the market soon, okay? And it is happening. But what is that truth and that they don't want you to see? All of this is political and social theater, correct? Whatever is happening is that there's new money system that is coming. I've been basically saying that for a long time, that a digital currency, which will eventually end up being the mark of the beast coin, okay, in Revelations, in the Bible that they talk about, these are being set up for that. So basically, as that's happening, they do not want you to see the truth. And that truth is that the fractional reserve banking system is dying or already dead, and that there is a cataclysmic shift in the way money is recognized, and that they don't want you to pay attention to that. They want you to be scared. They want you to be angry. They want you to have outrage about this Fauci, COVID, whoever else that's coming. They want you to wonder about where Mitch the bitch McConnell is. He's probably dead. And the fact that they're not being transparent says everything you need to know about how rotted our government and social institutions are at this point. Okay, they want you to be distracted by the fears of World War III. The media and social media personalities all claiming World War III, end of the world, making you scared, making you sell your stocks, your cryptos, and fear-mongering you into it because they don't want you to be holding the real things. And you know that I've been a very big, staunch proponent of gold, silver, physicals especially. And XRP, XDC, Bitcoin, a little iffy about Bitcoin as a value. I like utility coins, but they don't want you to be holding the real thing. What they want to do is they want to scare you out of all of these by manufacturing and spoofing the markets to basically go lower as they scoop things up. Okay, if you look at the recent AI hedge fund blow up, they blew that company up, thanks in part to Ken Griffin from Citadel. And basically, they destroyed his entire hedge fund while he was getting married. This is how ruthless these people are. Regardless, they don't want you to see the truth. They want you to buy their crap later on and earn a measly percentage point at or near what S&P 500 is returning. They don't want you to hold the real thing, and they want you to scare out of it, and that's exactly what the narrative is. Okay? But this is important, and truth is coming to the market. All right, so let's look ahead from yesterday, which is Friday, when the market closed. Where the MVCs, and again, take it with a grain of salt. We're still not there yet. We've had some volume increase over the last 3 days above average, but it's nowhere near where it should be, and that skews the way we can have prognostic values by the way the gammas are positioned in the derivatives market. However, we still need to go over it because we need a ballpark figure. All right, so what we have is an MVC set up for this August 7th at 75.50 SPX, which is roughly about 75.90, and then the secondary SPX developing right around 7600, which is equivalent to about 76.40 to 76.50. Okay. There is a negative MVC, not MVC, but gamma exposure at 7400, 7440. We're already been chopping around that area. So this acts as more of a floor or a support level. I do believe, and I am cautiously bullish about moving ahead for this week, and especially because the summer doldrums are over. And you saw how fast this little sell-off after FOMC speech, which is still kabuki theater. It's just, I think what Warsh is basically conditioning the media and the traders is that don't rely on us for guidance and stop gaming us. Okay, I believe Fed is going to be basically reorganized into the Treasury shortly, and I think that the tea leaves are there, and that's what's happening. All right, so when we look at this, again, heading into the August 7th from yesterday, is that we have a net drift. So I think, based on this shift, it's the same story. It's going to be like an Armageddon Thursday and Friday leading into another stick save Monday. And that's what this data is telling me. The only thing that's lacking lately is because of lack of volume. We really don't get accurate range prognostications that we normally get. But that will return soon, and it is hoped that the August will bring that back. Now, when we look at from last Friday, this is Fridays, and when we're looking at July 31st, we just ended right around 74.80 on the SPX. Remember, this is not ES, SPX, and looking ahead into Monday, the August 3rd, this is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and you can see that there's just stacks and stacks of just positive gammas on top of it. Really, these red negative gamma positioning is fewer and far between until we get into the Friday on the 7th. Now, these will change as the market opens, but this is the way the market ended, and it gives us the ability to see are we going to crash? Are we going to have a correction? Are we going to sell off? How's the market maker's position? And this is the way it is. Okay. And a lot of it, I think volume is related that way because if the big boys and the market makers are on vacation or they're just not trading because of summer, It's basically the retail gamblers and small hedge funds that are basically running amok. And that's where I think this prognostic value in terms of the range kind of disappears. However, we got to work with what we have. We trade based on our pivot levels, our trend lines, and a good old technical analysis, price to volume analysis, and we just layer in this gamma exposure. However, August 7th, we look at basically we have 75.70 to 50 as the MVC. And we have a nice setup forming, and these will fluctuate and change, but this is what we have. And I do believe we're going to see 7600 on the SPX or 7640 sooner than later. Okay, so this is the way we're set up, and so it gives us a good start in how we're going to be trading for the week. Now, we are seeking a return of the stock market volume, and basically volume is your father. A little spoof from Darth Vader telling Luke Skywalker he's the father, okay? And gamma exposure and all the technical analysis is great, but volume is the father of all trading. All right, so here's the previous fear and greed index. We were really in fear just back in July 17th. And then we basically got to this market at 39, a little bit off, but we're still in the fearful region. And that fear, what I call climbing the wall of worry, is continuing. And that's what the markets are doing. They scare you and they keep frustrating the bears that keep shorting the crap out of this market. But the range-bound nature of this market also frustrates the bulls, okay? And that's why I advocate keeping your position small until the volume returns and range expands. And that's what we're waiting patiently, okay? Now we're at 42. That was last week, and now we're at 42 ending this Friday. So market is still fearful, but edging a little bit more towards neutrality. So let's see how that develops. The market is not going to crash yet. It will, okay, because when the flip of the switch moment comes for a new digital money system, the stock market must crash. Right now, the Asian countries are crashing. You look at Japan, Korea, okay, especially Japan trying to save their yen. The yen carry trade is over, folks. And we're going to talk about how the U.S. is intervening, which basically I've always maintained for all these fiat currencies, it is a race to zero. Whoever gets to zero wins because they get the fruits of their labor. That means they hyperinflated all their assets and then put it onto the new digital currency. I believe it is XRP. I'm 100% sure. And, we have a big position as a group on XRP. Okay, just don't get feared out of this. They want you to not have XRP. Okay, accumulate at these low levels instead of selling, folks. Okay, all right. So basically, we are looking at this week's, and of course, we've had volume increase. Here's the average 100-day moving average right there. And we basically, on Friday, this is a daily chart. We pinned right off of that 75.37.87 and then kind of ended the day in the middle of the candlestick. So what this means is that these two levels right here, this and this, are going to be important as we head into Monday. If we break out above, we're going to be testing that 76.48 to 76.60 level. Okay, and I do believe that is coming. We're range bound with above average volume last 3 trading days, and let's see if the volume kicks up. No volume, that means we're going to be range bound. If we continue to stay above average, I believe a move higher. We still haven't had the blow off top formation, and this is why I warned the bears that are just indiscriminately shorting every time it looks like we're going to fail. Well, we're range bound from here to here, and it just looks very convincing. This is post FOMC, right? After Warsh stopped talking, and then we recovered right back. And that's what I mean by choppy markets. Okay, so let's do some macro analysis, shall we? Okay, let me bring this bad boy here, and I'll go quick. Okay, the dollar is now behaving as it should because this is the Fed intervention against the Japanese yen, trying to save that carry trade, and that means that while the dollar was rising, we're now below 100, and they are going to push this thing below 95 and lower. Okay. In the meantime, because the Japanese are dumping the treasuries right now and in favor of supporting their own Japanese bonds, becoming nationalistic, aren't they? Okay, this means that the fractional reserve banking or the central banking system is failing. This means also that the banks are under a lot of stress. The debt market is under stress, and that's not a old news. Yes, in a normal market without manipulation, should we have crashed? Of course we have, but we keep printing money and hyperinflating assets to support this market as far as it will go. And I think that's by design. Okay, what they're going to do is they're going to hyperinflate all the debt and then basically resolve it through repricing gold and silver, backing it to the digital currency. And this is why some of these Democrats are blocking the Clarity Act, because they work for the banks, the old guard banks, the fractional reserve central banks. Okay, just look at who is talking the loudest. Pocahontas. All right, all right. Those are the corrupt ones. Okay. The fractional money system is done, folks. And whether you like it or not, we're going to be entering into a new regime. We already talked about the ES, and we already know that the NQ, which is NASDAQ, is moving higher. They had some spectacular earnings from Microsoft, did they not, this week? Okay. And so, or last week. Gold and silver, we bought them, folks. It's just a matter of getting out of these trading ranges here and moving higher, okay? And that will only happen when the new money system is being implemented. And I think we are very, very close. Keep an eye on the Clarity Act vote, okay? It's all political theater, folks, all right? And for those of you that think that the market is going to crash, look at this VIX right here, okay? All we've been doing is range bound here. Yes, we've been popping up a little bit, and everyone gets their panties in a bunch thinking the market's going to crash and it's going to go do that. Until and unless we establish a new support level at 25, this market's not going to crash. It's just going to continue to grind sideways with an upward bias, folks. Okay, you can't even really buy the dip because the range is so short, okay? So that's about it for the macro. Okay. Yes, the banks are in trouble. Yes, the debt market is crap. Yes, the Japanese are trying to save their own markets. And yeah, all the countries are going to become nationalistic. They're going to veer towards XRP. Japan already has XRP implemented. So what is the problem, folks? Okay. It's not Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be continuing to be a store of value, but it will never be utility coins. Get XRP when it's cheap, folks. Okay. So we have big week of earnings coming up this week, and I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. I don't know why this computer does what it does. Palantir is important, folks. To me, I think Palantir deserves a look. Okay, I'm not saying front run this earnings, but Palantir is a long-term hold for me, and I think they've been beaten down along with the rest of the AI complexes, but I think they will make a comeback, and this is a fantastic area for us to be adding to our longer-term positions, and let's see if there's a play for it before or after earnings on this name. Of course, I'm big on Caterpillar. We'll talk about that in a bit. McDonald's is a very big one. Wayfair, W. Okay, let's see what the online retailers look like. Amazon had a great earning, but it wasn't on the basis of their retail. It was based on their cloud, which is going gangbusters according to them. Okay. The next one is AMD. I'm bearish on this name. I continue to remain bearish a little bit, partly because, well, I'm not going to go over it, but I will call it the trifecta of evil: AMD, NVIDIA, and SMCI. And maybe I'll do a video on that a little bit later. And just remember, this is a family business, a triad of family businesses, okay? And then SpaceX is going to be reporting their earnings. Yes, they right on schedule, they've been pulling back post IPO, and this is nothing new, okay? Palantir went through it, Tesla went through it, any stocks, including Facebook or Meta. Okay, Meta's in trouble, aren't they? Great leadership from Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, so basically, these two are worth watching for the Tuesday. Now, on Wednesday, I'm really interested in how SanDisk and Western Digital is going to report earnings, and AppLovin is a very, very important player in this space. Again, these have all been beaten down a little bit. Maybe a good time to be accumulating and maybe having a short-term play. Mercado Libre, always something to watch for. I don't like it as an options play, but when you do hit, this thing pays big. Just the bid and ask spread is really, really big. So just be careful about that. Datadog, again, data centers. Very, very important. Jim Cramer came out and told you to sell all data centers. Remember, do inverse Cramer on that one, not blindly, but I think realistically, I think these will recover along with the AI complexes, which are showing signs of recovery at the moment. Okay. And then, of course, I'm looking at Airbnb, Rigetti, okay, Trade Desk. And here's the Trade Desk. Those are important ones that I'd be interested in. And then, of course, Take Two. I featured that a few weeks ago, and Take Two is important. Maybe I'll do a separate video for our members later. Okay. So that's about it for the earnings. Let's move on into us being patient all of July. And we have been. We've been, a lot of people are getting bored or they're just getting antsy because it's just like we're not making any progress in July because, well, we're not putting big money up or even trading that much. We're just watching and staying in cash, right? However, the race is about to speed up. Okay, it's about to quicken, folks. Not the accounting software, quicken, meaning fast. Okay. I talked about XRP, folks. All right. I mean, if XRP, I'm still waiting for XRP to go below 95, 85 cents. If it gets there, that's a generational buying opportunity. Don't be like these guys waiting in line to get this. Money system changes happening and they don't want you in it, folks. How many times do I have to say that? Okay. So let's look at some charts here. Okay, not PPOADX, McClellan Summation Index. All right, I didn't extend these out. Okay, we're still moving higher. Okay, we have a little blip down. Okay, generally it just means that we're gonna chop sideways, but we are basically moving higher in this area. Okay. We had that scare. It correctly prognosticated a little pullback on Wednesday, did it not? And so we're looking for this to continue to move, give us direction. Right now, it's just chopping sideways. So really, we're neutral from this McClellan Summation Index. SPY. Before you guys get all like bearish on me, yes, we're stalling or we're chopping sideways, or can we actually be making this bullish flag to move higher? Like I said on the SPY, I do believe Trump is going to pump this market to 8,000, have a blow off top, and then just crash this market to bring in the new money system. Okay, that's what I believe. Okay, I think the deep state or the establishment does not want that. They want to crash the markets now. And, this market is rigged. I mean, what else are you going to do? Here's SPY on the daily. Okay, we had a little poke through, right, on after the FOMC. Everyone thought we were going to crash, right? Everyone came out saying World War III had started. Oh, my goodness, the banks, get your money out of banks, blah, blah, blah. We're going to crash 30% by Monday. Well, it really didn't happen. In fact, it's pretty bullish. We're above the 20 SMA. We're above the 50 SMA. We're above all the lesser moving averages. I believe we're targeting the 768 right into that area. If we can just get over this 750 level. Okay. Here's our long-term trend. Okay, there was a period where I thought we would reject off of here, but we gotta trust the market, and the market says that we're going higher. Okay, this is like a bull flag. This is monthly chart. Okay, silver. Okay, and silver looks bearish as ever. We're below this trend line right here, finding support off of this Bollinger Band and get it while nobody wants it, okay? Silver is highly manipulated. It is about to explode, especially if we get the Clarity Act going. Same thing with gold. Same thing. I'm not going to spend too much time there. We're going to move higher, folks, Okay, let's talk about W, which reports earnings this week. Okay, we broke through the uptrend line, short-term uptrend line, and now we have a black candle below the 50-day moving average, negative divergences on the RSI. Let's look at our MACD. MACD histogram is negative, about to make a death hook. CCI is negative. Stochastic has rolled over from the the positive territory. We're going to start moving down. PPO ADX is forming a negative crush, right? This type of formation is not good for the market, for this stock anyways. I'm bearish on W. AMD. Okay, AMD found support, so this bears watching right near the 20 SMA, but we still have negative divergences forming, and this could have been a dead cat bounce. They report earnings. That's all that's going to be. Okay, we're going to see what happens. If they miss earnings, I'm telling you right now, they're going to go right down into this 50-day moving average. Okay. I don't think they're going to miss earnings. It depends on, is there any shocking news? What are they doing? Okay. CMG, I've been saying accumulate CMG at the bottom here. And, long term, this is a great stock. And I believe this thing has legs. We just need to get over 38. I think we're going to head right into that 45. We'll see. Okay, we played this to great effect for the earnings, but we took profits on these, but we may re-enter, maybe on a little pullback on Monday. Who knows? Okay, but we'll see. CMG is moving higher, folks. Caterpillar reports earnings, and you know what? Caterpillar looks like dog shit at this point. Yes, so you're gonna see this little, there's a little tail candle and everything else, but the thing is that Caterpillar has been on an uptrend. The global economy typically is supposedly slowing down, right? I mean, we'll see. We'll see what they have to say. However, we have increasing selling volume, MACD death cross. Okay, we have CCI negative. It's ready to go into the negative territory. Stochastic is rolling over. PPO ADX is rolling over. Accumulation distribution from the top is rolling over. Okay. Palantir, they report earnings this week. Okay. Palantir is a little bit tale of two cities. We got positive divergences, and yet, we've been kind of rolling over. Some of you might say, oh, this looks like it's like a head and shoulders type of formation, right here on the weekly. Well, it could be, or maybe we're going to find support. This is beaten down. I mean, it's basically has been negative. However, we're at the bottom. MACD is positive on the histogram. We're moving higher. Everything has positive divergences, so I'm bullish on this. Circle. Very, very important. Since it's IPO, like all IPOs do, they shoot up just like SpaceX did. And it basically has been on a downward trajectory. We're near the kind of the bottom of that breakout level. And I think with the Clarity Act that's coming, with stable coins that are going to be used, I think I'm bullish on this. This should be a longer term hold. I mean, I'm not sure about playing earnings per se, but everything is just flat at this point, so it's a game time decision for this. Okay, we do have some positive histograms forming, maybe a little positive CCI, too early to tell, and maybe we're forming on this bullish PPO ADX formations. Okay, certainly people have been dumping this. I mean, we're near the bottom of this dumpage that's been going on, and Coinbase last week just got slaughtered. Okay, so this may be a good opportunity because the expectations are so low. Okay, and with the Clarity Act, with the new money system that's coming, this is something that bears watching. Okay. So that's about it for me in terms of what we're talking about in terms of our video for the coming week. And the prevailing message is markets are about to quicken or speed up. Earnings continues and markets are still range bound where the volume is beginning to increase. Let's see if we can continue that. Okay. As it stands, markets lack range and volume. Let's see what happens on Monday, okay? As long as there's no surprise news that, Trump has vowed to bomb the crap out of Iran, right? But mysteriously, by Sunday night, we get this message that, oh yeah, they're in talks. And they're very close to talks. And I don't know why Afghanistan is so involved in all this, but we'll see. This week, I am cautiously bullish despite the noise, okay? Anthony Fauci, Okay. God will judge him either in this life or next. Um, yeah. I'm not a big fan of that COVID situation. And truth is coming out, no matter what the mainstream media says. I don't really care if I get deplatformed or whatever from YouTube. My channel is small. It doesn't really matter. Okay. But what matters is telling the truth for my community members. Fed is being scaled back. Okay. Warsh came out and said, we're not going to give you forward guidance because it makes the media take that data. They become very good at creating prognostication markets and they want no part of it. In fact, he's talking about scaling back these conference calls. Okay. I'm sure there's a lot going on, but the central banking system is dying. Okay. So that's the warning. So summer doldrum. We're gonna watch for summer doldrum trading ending with July, and so let's give it a week or so in August. But next week is earnings week. It continues. It's gonna be fantastic. Silver, gold, and cryptos are beaten down. Watch them carefully. Clarity Act. Rest of the world is ready except for the U.S. Think about all the senators and Congress people and Democrats that are trying to block this, and they're the enemy of America. Okay. All right. Accumulate cryptos and precious metals. Buy any pullbacks. I've been saying that for a while, so it's automatic. Don't fight the bull, man. Trump will pump this market to 8,000 before correction. I'm not saying tomorrow. Okay. But I do believe I'm expecting a positive market open on Monday. Maybe we take out that 76.40, maybe move a little bit higher now that July is done. We're watching AMD. I'm cautiously bearish on AMD. We were bearish last week, and we still hold some positions on AMD. But with Friday's market action and with Microsoft earnings, it kind of pulled all the AI space higher. SpaceX is reporting their first earnings. I'm not going to really take a position on this unless something drastic happens. But again, give it a couple of months. Let it pull back more before you establish big positions on it. And then Palantir, I am bullish on Palantir. Caterpillar, I'm bearish. We'll see what happens there. McDonald's, I think McDonald's is going to probably report decent earnings, but it'll only move like 2 or 3%. We'll see what happens there. I am bearish on. Airbnb, I'm bearish on. Bullish on Rigetti. Take-Two, I'm bearish on. Circle, I'm bullish. Okay, so that's what we have. And then thank you so much for following me at Galaxy Market on X.com. Like us, share us, and above all, comment and subscribe on YouTube. And then if you want to work with me, you have to email me at coachbrandon@protonmail.com. If you want to join my community, okay, Essentials community, we get the watch list. Our watch list just kicked ass last week. Also, we get intraday market commentaries, chart analysis, just a growing community. And if you want to join, $49. There's higher mentorship programs, but that's not the scope of why I'm doing this. I want you to join my community if you are a seasoned trader and you need a little bit more perspective on things, and you'll get a lot of that from me. Anyways, be careful out there. The volume is beginning to rise, but we're not out of the woods yet. Let's see if this July summer doldrums is over and we get to start kicking off into historically volatile fall. But we're going to have lots of volume and lots of ranges, and there's going to be opportunity to the upside and to the downside. All right, let's get some alpha. Bye-bye.